Well, amid global economic uncertainty, the International Monetary Fund has expressed concerns over the rising state of Nigeria's debt profile, surging inflationary pressure, and an unabating forex crisis, warning that such macroeconomic fundamentals is likely to lead the country's economy to the brinks. Now, the IMF, in its latest report titled Rethinking Monetary Policy in a Changing World, also warned Nigeria against constantly bailing out governments in the quest to borrow funds outside the bond market. It maintains that monetizing excessive government debt needs to be stopped so as to reduce liquidity in the money market, which will drastically tame inflation, as well as enable them freely set interest rates and pursue their objectives independent of fiscal policy. It will interest you to know that the federal government's 23.7 trillion naira debt as loan collected from the central bank through ways and means has been a topic of debate. And I'm going to talk about it also today because this started since 2022. To give more insights into this development amidst all the burning economic issues, I'm being joined live from our Abuja studios. He is a professor of accounting from Now University of Nigeria, Professor Ofili Ugwadioha. Prof, it's good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Hello, how are you? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here.
All right, you're welcome, Prof. Prof, let's take it, let's move quickly to understanding what message IMF is passing. What is IMF saying to Nigeria at this time? Stop the bailouts. Ways and means seems to be on the alarming side. All of this seems to be falling on the CBN. What do you make, or what is first your reaction and the implication of this submission from the IMF?
Yeah, thank you very much. In one of the programs here, I mentioned that IMF is advisory. It's advice to countries and nations is on the advisory role, and that some of those advice are actually good, while some are not good. Everything depends on the environment and the country which that advice is given. On this very advice to Nigeria, I support IMF in the sense that our debt profile, whether it is in external debt or domestic debt, has risen so high that Nigeria is almost in a very difficult situation to survive. The survival of this nation is very, very difficult considering the financial predicament we are facing. And it comes mostly from the debt profile of the country. If you look at the debt servicing as at today, the debt servicing is costing Nigeria almost above 90%. Let me put it like that because there was a time it was almost around 98% of the revenue, not of the budget, of the revenue being generated, which means you spend almost everything you generated on servicing debt. So how can you survive? IMF even said that Nigeria may find it difficult surviving as from 2026. But I'm saying even from today, because if you look at the budget of the day, you see that this budget is quite unrealistic, quite unprofessionally prepared, and it doesn't sound good for the nation. From our perspective, a country that has a budget of 21.8, almost 22 trillion, and you know that your income for that year is proposed to be, because you cannot even realize it, your income, proposed income is around 10 trillion or thereabout, or 11 trillion, between 10 to 11. And this is just supposing that everything you planned goes well. But everything we planned in budget never goes well. So you projected that you will generate 11 trillion. Then you are going to spend almost half of it because your budget is 22. It's not even 21 because 21.8 is 22. So you are generating this and you are spending half of what? No, you are generating 11 trillion and you are going to spend 22 trillion. It's like a man who is earning 10 million naira a year. And this very man spends 22 million naira that same year. So after spending 22 million naira, this means that 11 million comes out of your pocket. 11 million comes out of borrowing. So if you borrow 11 million, which is equal to your annual salary, how do you survive next year? So that is what Nigeria is facing now. But people continue advising the government that you are within the threshold. Now we have surpassed the threshold. So, and they are still borrowing. They are finding other means to defend them. I believe that economic advisors are not doing well for the government. And I also believe that the Ministry of Finance should do better than what they are doing, as well as the CBN. Well, CBN of any nation come to an aid when the country is in a very tight financial situation. But our own has gone too much because everything you run to CBN, even what you know that you don't need the money for. If you look at this country today, you can bear me witness that the major problem we have is our basic infrastructure is not there. Security of lives and property is not there. Power to generate economic activities, including production, is not there. So what are you borrowing all this money for? Because if you should borrow money, it should tell in the lives and economic activities of the nation. Then, even if we are saying, why do you borrow? You shouldn't have borrowed again. But we are seeing it in the lives and the economy of the people. People, you can defend yourself with this. But the worst aspect of it is that what we are borrowing for is not seen. Is not seen by anybody. Even the government themselves know that it is true. But people will come on television and newspaper and come on in different media to defend them. I don't know why you can see a man who is sick and is dying. Then you tell the man that is not sick is very sound. Don't worry, you will not die.
Prof,
so that's the situation we are.
Allow me to briefly interject while you continue with your thoughts. It's quite related, but my question would be, after the impact of COVID-19, of course, we saw all that had played out then and all economies struggling to come back at least to pre-pandemic levels. Many would say a country like Nigeria was left with no choice than to borrow. So if we weren't going to borrow, what were the options for us, in your thoughts?
Well, I think what we are borrowing now is not because of the pandemic. The pandemic has come and gone. So if anybody is using this as an excuse, the person could be termed as a deceiver. It's not true. But borrowing is a way of funding a budget. But I am thinking that there are other means of funding the budget. There are other means of preparing the budget to make it more realistic. For instance, they have told us that they are removing subsidy. If this subsidy is removed, you are going to get 6 trillion. Remember that the proposed income for this year is supposed to be 11 trillion. If you get 6, you are only looking for, if you get 6 from removing of the subsidy, you are only looking for maybe another 5. But actually, you are not getting 6, you are getting 3, because you are going to remove the subsidy by the middle of the year. That's already a big income. Then, another way is that we should be able not only to talk about removing the subsidy, we should be able to talk about what we do to revive the refinery. Because if refinery is not revived, the impact of subsidy removal is going to be very, very minimal. It's going to have a positive impact, but the impact is going to be minimal. Imagine if you remove the subsidy and you reform or you revive the refinery, you can now be producing almost all these things you are importing. You can be producing petrol, aviation fuel, diesel, bitumen. Then, aside from this, the residue from the refining will be used in petrochemical industries. Petrochemical firms will come up to establish companies that will process all those things. And there are different plastic productions, plastic products will come out of it, shoes will come out of it, pen and biro will come out of it, furniture will come out of it, and even what you use in your household and your cars, half of them are almost petroleum product. All this will come out of it. This will not only give you income, but we also engage people in productive activities and reduce unemployment. So we are suffering because of maladministration in this country. I call it maladministration because people sit there and they are not doing anything. So if this is done, you will see that these companies working will generate tax. Because in every country, you hear people say, it's taxpayers' money that the government is spending. But in our own, it's the money borrowed and the money taken from NNPC that cut crude oil and throw it away overseas. This is not good for a nation to survive. If countries are not working, if firms are not working, you cannot generate income. Because the more you make the country robust in economic activities, productions, and so on and so forth, and do many things that will encourage production, more taxes will come. IMF was talking about how to generate income. The past advice, they always say through taxes. But they forgot to know that taxes in Nigeria is a difficult thing because you cannot tax a man who is dying. You cannot tax a company that doesn't declare profit. Companies pay tax through profit. Payee, which is pay as you earn, is also getting very minimal because people are retrenching. If you retrench workers, assuming that you have 200 workers last year and this year you are having 100, which means government is only expecting half of your tax, half of what you paid last year. So the means, the way to increase to manage the budget, that's what I always say, to manage the budget is all these things I'm enumerating. Then another way of managing the budget is cutting your coat according to your own size. If you are big, your coat should be big. If you are small, your coat should be small. Nigeria spends more than what they need every year. I don't see a reason why Nigeria is spending 22 or 21.8 trillion annually. It is too much, and nobody is feeling it. If I am in charge of finances of this country, between 10 to 12 trillion can do a good budget and can give Nigeria productivity, can give them the economy that they deserve to thrive. Most of this money you see in the budget are waste. They go into people's pocket, and the problem of Nigerian budget is that nobody asks. Because budget comes into being,
Yes, Prof. Allow me to
budget
ask you.
execution.
Okay. Can
Okay.
you hear me, Prof?
Yes, I can.
Now, Prof, my next question would be, you've talked about the monetary side and the fiscal side, and I know we've discussed this before now, that sync, that synergy. Do you see it with the present administration? And can it be better? If it's better, what will be the achievements? How does that affect the outlook of 2023?
Well, thank you very much. One of the major problems I have with the management of the country's finances is that the monetary policy and the fiscal policy work in divergent sides. They don't connect. They don't correlate. They don't work together. Because the monetary policy of a nation should complement the fiscal policy of that nation to be able to achieve economic goals. But that is not true. You can even see when the redesigning of Naira came in, when the Minister of Finance was saying that she was not consulted. How is it possible that the monetary side of the economy will just take a decision and move on without thinking of the physical side of it? These two, even though the Ministry of Finance do not have much control, but they should know what you plan and how you plan it. That's just one instance. I've seen so many things like that. So the policies are not correlated, and that gives headache to the economy. And this is one of the reasons. That is not the only reason. It's one of the reasons why it is difficult for Nigeria to achieve any reasonable economic goal. We can cheat and manipulate figures to say this is our GDP, but how? How realistic is it? What are we seeing here in reality? We can manipulate our inflation and unemployment rate, but what are we seeing? What is on the ground? Is it the same thing with what people are saying or what the MBS is bringing out? So many questions arise from those economic indices they are giving us. And this is why people are so unhappy with the goings, what is happening at the moment. I believe that the president, as a person, cannot do everything. He has people to work with him. But when the people that work with him are not doing what they should do to enhance the economy, to enhance the people's life, well, who is to blame? Those people will do whatever they do on the underground and escape, and the president will be blamed.
All right, there, Prof. It is really a good way or a good
Then
place.
you are talking about the economic outlook. Yeah, you are talking about
in 1 minute, Prof. We're out of time.
Yeah.
In 1 minute, we're out of time.
Like I said, the economic outlook for this year is bleak. We're already almost at the end of the first quarter, and it will continue to be bleak. Reason being that most of the things in the budget are not going to be realized because it's just a mere manipulation of figure. Let's pass the budget and let's take credit that budget is passed before January or before the beginning of another year. Secondly, the budget is so over-bloated that they cannot realize almost all those things they put down there. The figures are so over-bloated that oil production, what they assume to have been in the budget, they cannot realize it. And if you don't realize your income, the budget already has problems. And some of these borrowings, we have some little problems because you are not even sure whether those people you are borrowing money from will continue to lend you if you are not servicing this, the one you have borrowed. And if you continue servicing the one you have borrowed, then you leave the economy untouched. So people will suffer, which means they cannot realize the goal of the budget and the goal of the economic plan for 2023.
Professor
Thank
Ofili Ugwadioha, I see that passion. Anytime we're talking about Nigeria's economy, there always interesting having you. Professor of Accounting, now University of Nigeria. Do I enjoy the rest of your day? We can't finish this discussion in a day. You know that. We would always have another time to talk around it. Enjoy the rest of your day, Prof.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And